Alright, let's talk about some mistakes that you're making in Wuchang Fallen Feathers to make the game way harder than it needs to be. This game is already crazy challenging and has a lot of crazy good boss fights, so I'm going to take you through a few tips that are going to allow you to make the game easier for yourself so you don't have to smash your head against a wall every single time you find yourself at a boss or you're going through the Land of Shu. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first up, let's talk about the armor in the game because there is a ton here that's going on that you need to be aware of because bosses are going to do different damage types and will do different status buildups on you, so you need to have the armor set equipped in order to deal with each individual boss fight. There's also different builds you need to make on your way through the Land of Shu as opposed to the builds you're going to use at a boss fight. For example, during a typical run through of the Land of Shu, I will be wearing kind of whatever is going on at the time or an armor set that looks cool. However, when you get to a boss fight, this will not work. Obviously, there's different mitigations and resistances on each piece of armor set, but for example, I am currently fighting a boss that does stab damage as well as frostbite. So I have put together a armor set that's going to do frostbite resist as well as stab resist in order to give me the best chance of taking the least amount of damage from this boss. This is going to be absolutely pivotal to help you out in every single boss fight you come to in Wuchang Fallen Feathers. Make sure you have the correct resistances and the correct mitigations, or your boss fights are going to be way harder than they need to be. The next mistake you're making is not clearing every single boss in an area before you continue. One thing that I have noticed with Wuchang Fallen Feathers is it's very easy to get into an area where you're not supposed to be and you're getting one or two shotted by the bosses. I have been struggling with this a lot recently and just figured out that instead of staying in the area that I was supposed to, I actually progressed into an area where the boss was annihilating me and I still had up to 4 bosses to take care of in the previous area. Now, some of these are optional bosses, however, overall, going through and killing every single boss in the game is going to allow you to get more mercury and level up faster to get into these areas that are more challenging in the game. Right now, I am in the 3rd area of the game where I figured out that there are 3 bosses I haven't taken out yet, so I'm going back from the 4th area and knocking out every single boss that I can. Having high levels and getting the levels you need to get to the appropriate area is very, very important in this game, so make sure you're exploring every single option. There are so many different forked roads and you have the ability to make the wrong decision, and instead of going right, you go left, where if you had gone right, you would have stayed in your area and managed to get a ton more mercury than you would have prior. Exploration is crazy important in this game, so make sure you're taking out all the bosses in an area so you don't make the same mistake that I did. And speaking of bosses, the thing you're not doing before a boss fight is appropriately buffing. There are so many ways to buff your character before a boss fight, allowing you to have more stamina, more damage, and get an edge up against these bosses. I highly suggest Divine Might, as this is pretty much going to be a Royal Knight's Resolve type of spell. For 1 Skyborn Might, you are going to allow yourself to increase the power of your next attack, doing a lot more damage than you previously would have. This is a very fast cast and also works with spells and feathering spells, as well as physical damage if you're not using spells at all. For the very low spell cost, I'd highly recommend this one. It's helped me out a ton in many boss fights in Wuchang Fallen Feathers. You can also boost all of your resistances to different statuses, so I highly suggest using some of those items as well. And the ever important stamina recovery speed can also be boosted by things like the Soft Rush and the Soft Rush flowers. There are so many different items that can boost your damage or boost your stats to give you a leg up in Wuchang Fallen Feathers. I highly recommend going through and finding out which one of those items are going to be most beneficial to your build and then stocking them in one of your 4 item slots. My personal buffing order is to use the Divine Might as well as the feathers you get from the Arum birds, the Arum Feather. The Arum Feather is going to randomly increase one of the following stats: the maximum health, maximum stamina, or all damage dealt. Either way, whichever one of those buffs you're going to get is only going to enhance what you're going to experience in a boss fight. Next up, don't let red mercury just sit in your inventory collecting dust. This is free mercury, which is going to transition into free levels the more of these items you have. have. As you walk through the land of Shu, you're going to find everything from budding red mercury all the way to flawless red mercury, and every single red mercury item in between. As you can see, I have quite a few here stocked up in my inventory, and it's just because you pick up so many of these that it's very easy to forget that you even have them. Go through and activate every single one of these in order to get more mercury and get levels faster to therefore become more powerful. I cannot tell you how many times I have gone through Wuchang Fallen Feathers and gone through my inventory to find I have a ton of these laying around, and they could have helped me a lot on the previous boss fight, just getting a little bit of an edge, gaining a level or two. Now, throwables are also something that is very overlooked in Wuchang Fallen Feathers. Now, they aren't amazing, however, there are some pendants that can help you do more damage, as well as help the status effect become greater every single time you hit your enemy with a throwable that causes a status effect. There can be some fun builds built around this idea of your throwables, but I have a habit of just stocking up on every different type of throwing knife, as well as other throwables that can do a ton of damage, just like the fire pot and the niter fire pot. Every once in a while, check your inventory to see what kind of throwing daggers or throwing items that you have. Typically, I like to use these on lesser or medium-sized enemies. I find that the boss fights in this game are just so aggressive that you almost don't have time to use throwables, but when going through the land of Shu and just walking from point A to point B, getting from all your different shrines to where you need to go, throwables can be really nice, especially if you need to separate enemies, because fighting more than 2 enemies at a time in this game can be very difficult. Throwables are definitely going to be where you want to go in order to get those enemies separated and do a little bit more damage or cause status effects faster than you typically would. I think throwables are incredibly overlooked, as I said, and they should definitely be used more often if you're going through the land of Shu, finding that you need something at range before your enemy closes in on you. And the very last mistake I think people are probably making here is to make sure every now and again you check your valuables tab. You are going to pick up a ton of different knickknacks and valuables as you go through the land of Shu, and these are all going to be stored here. Now, where people need to figure things out in this tab is looking at the item and figuring out exactly where you need to go in order to turn this item in. For example, this red mercury crystal, it says a certain Taoist searches for this item. However, if I go to the broken token, it says it can be given to the Taoist at the refugee camp. So that tells me exactly where I need to go in order to get this red mercury crystal turned in for whatever item or other armor or weapons that I can get from the Taoist. You'll also pick up certain keys that are going to allow you to go to certain areas in the game, and they will tell you right in the item info whereabouts the key is going to go. You're also going to get quest items that are going to show up here as well, so make sure every now and again you come back to this tab, become accustomed with the items that you've picked up so you can know which quest lines or which NPCs you need to go to in order to give these items to. But guys, that's going to be it for just a few mistakes that I feel like people are making that are making the game a ton harder for you. Wuchang Fallen Feathers is already incredibly difficult, so making the game harder on yourself is just not going to be the best plan. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching until the end of the video. If you like this type of content, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out, and until next time, stay safe, enjoy the game, and I'll see you in the next one.